It is our Christmas edition. So we do it, do it over one more time, Christmas. Why not? So this is the Prince of Peace edition of The Man Was Not Born to Cry. And thank you for showing up, for being here, for being present. That's really lovely. So yes, indeed, it is the last meeting of The Man Was Not Born to Cry. So we're not going to cry about that, but I too have very much loved this series so far, and so there's one more to come, like that's today, and then we continue with the Transcendental Consciousness series. Which are 8 or 10, I don't remember exactly, talks of Joel related to transcendental consciousness, which is like coming into fourth dimensional consciousness. But there are steps to take, and Joel puts this out pretty clear in the talks that he has. So it is worth taking a look at it and studying it. We use only the the tapes. Some of them have a transcript, but not many. And the other thing that we use is the parenthesis in eternity. So you might have that book, or I certainly share parts of it when I send out the invitation for the next week. I will send out a part of the parenthesis that I'm going to take a look at with you in the meetings that we have, so no worries about that. There's in the parenthesis there's so much about transcendental consciousness that I thought it's a beautiful support for the listening to the tapes and deepening our study and acceptance of the words and the demonstration of the words, because it's like listen, learn, and do. And listening, we've done that a lot, like millions of minutes. If I see YouTube, it's like millions of minutes each month that people are actually, that you are actually listening to this. Millions of minutes, really. And then so we have listened. Now we're hearing it too. Now it's coming to the part where also comes the demonstration of it, and the acceptance, of course, and in all kinds of ways of expression. Demonstrating it, or teaching it, or standing for it, allowing that to be your truth, and seeing that, that is your truth, recognizing that that's the only thing that's going on. Now, today is a bit of a step in that direction already with, the I that I am is the series, the third part of this, of the 12 videos that we're listening to. So this is the last one from the third part, the I that I am. And the Prince of Peace falls perfect into that. If you see that, what is this Prince of Peace? Where does it actually come from? Where does the idea of Prince of Peace come from? And so we take a look at that later, and also what it means in the sense of, in terms of acceptance of the truth of who you are, and how Joel uses it in the talk that we're going to listen to today, which is the Christmas talk of 1961. Not that long ago, right? But it's great to listen to it. So yeah, starting with the meditation, also derived from the talk. I'm actually reading the words, but I do this just to really make it into meditation. So the one thing that I did too, and you recognize this, that I've been doing it pretty consistently, is that I switched. In the book, everything is, edited in the direction of we and our. It's like our consciousness, we do this, we do that. Our consciousness, our what, yeah. Lorraine Sinclair literally replaced all of that from Joel's talk, from the I, direct I expression, to the we expression and our. So I turn that back around, and that makes it such a difference, especially in this meditation that we're going to do. Like, it speaks directly to you, and that's exactly what it should do. Otherwise, there's some we that's going to do things in the future. Like, no, this is an I that's going to do it right now. How about that? I love that. So the directness and the responsibility lies here, like in you, not anywhere else. There's no we taking care of anything. There's a me recognizing this and taking that on for myself. So that makes a huge difference. Now, in this meditation that we do, you see all these words are, say, put back into how Joel actually said it. And so later on in the listening to the tape, this part might come back to us again. I don't know, because we're listening to the second half of the hour. So here we are. I'm going to share the video of the pre-made meditation in order to be able to completely dive into the meditation with you. And let that flow to us, to me, in my recognition of what is actually being asked. This Christ peace, however, cannot be achieved by praying to God to reform my neighbors, not even my neighbors across the sea. It has to begin within me. Why do I not recognize my own barrenness before I begin to demand things of others? Let me leave my neighbors alone and secretly and sacredly go within, silently communing with the Prince of Peace within me, the Prince of Joy, health, wholeness, completedness, and of spiritual perfection. Then, when I have attained some measure of Christhood and am no longer barren, I will not have to ask for peace from my neighbor, nor will I have to pray to God for peace. For peace will be flowing out from within myself to all mankind. The peace that passes understanding is established within me, and it is given release when I make contact with it in my daily meditations. Like a dove, it begins to spread its wings over this entire universe. To look for peace in another is not only to evade and avoid the issue, it is to prevent my own experience of peace. To look for justice, for mercy, or for gratitude in another is a mistake. It is my individual responsibility to find the kingdom of God at the center of my own being.
Cette paix du Christ, cependant, ne peut pas être obtenue en priant Dieu de réformer mes voisins, pas même mes voisins d'outre-mer. Cela doit commencer par moi. Pourquoi est-ce que je ne reconnais pas ma propre stérilité avant de commencer à exiger des choses des autres? Laissez-moi, laissez mes voisins tranquilles et entrez secrètement et sacrément à l'intérieur, communiant silencieusement avec le prince de la paix en moi, le prince de la joie et de la santé, de la plénitude et de la perfection spirituelle. Ensuite, lorsque j'aurai atteint une certaine mesure de l'état Christ et que je serai plus stérile, je n'aurai pas à demander la paix à mon voisin, ni à prier Dieu pour la paix, car la paix coulera de moi-même vers toute l'humanité. La paix qui dépasse la compréhension s'établit en moi et elle se libère lorsque j'entre en contact avec elle par mes méditations quotidiennes. Telle une colombe, elle commence à déployer ses ailes sur tout l'univers. Rechercher la paix chez un autre, ce n'est pas seulement éluder et éviter le problème, c'est empêcher ma propre expérience de la paix. Chercher la justice, la miséricorde ou la gratitude chez autrui est une erreur. Il est de ma responsabilité individuelle de trouver le royaume de Dieu au centre de mon propre être.
So, like I said, it is today an extra Christmas day, the Prince of Peace. So, and it can arrive, say, it can come into your awareness today, like every day. So in that sense, it's totally appropriate, and I just love it to bring back quietness and say an atmosphere of peace, so to speak, into this. So it fits so well with the idea of the I that I am. And so Joel brings that in through the last chapter of this book, Man Was Not Born to Cry. And so it is related to the 61 Christmas class, you could say, our meeting that was there. And so there are a couple of expressions I want to take a look at, just for the ease of remembering exactly, oh yeah, wait a minute, it is like this. Just to, yeah, I could say, like, put some facts in order. And Joel helps us with that. So one thing that I like to share with you is the idea of where does the Prince of Peace come from? You probably know it, but it's always like, yeah, why not share that too? The origin of the expression, the Prince of Peace. Yeah, so we go to this. So there's Isaiah. Isaiah was a king and a prophet. So he certainly had a very open mind. You could say what he saw as a prophecy was his open-mindedness to be able to actually look this way, to receive this information. And he says it this way in Isaiah 9, verse 6. It is this: "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." Now you see there are some other names too, like Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. So they all have the very specific origin again too. So I don't want to dive too deeply in that, but here the Prince of Peace we recognize. So it's like Isaiah used the Prince of Peace. It was literally coming, say, down from him. And that's an interesting, say, thing to look at, just for a second, not to stand too long still, but it's like, if you are open to receive, if you in fact, say, start to communicate, you also recognize that it's like all time is going on all the time. There's not a tomorrow, there's not a this or that. No, there's this moment. And in that moment, everything can be given to you. So even as you could say, like, was Isaiah clairvoyant? Did he see it coming, that there was a Jesus and there was a this and a that? I was like, well, he received it. He received it. He was open. He had that, say, access to that information, because you have access to that information. Like, by being open to receive. By being in communication with the universe, there are no secrets. So that is something to stand still by, or to recognize in yourself. Like, actually, you know it. You know this. There's a son born in us, in you. There's a son born. Like there's a Prince of Peace born in you. Like it's literally there in your consciousness. So far, you might have thought that you were someone else, or you were a certain person, a certain character with a certain name, living in a time-space continuum, and born into a family, and living some years here in this human existence, and then who knows what happens. Like that can be a description or a belief of yourself, where Joel says like, oh, wait a minute, that's not the thing that's going on. There's something else going on. That's why we talk about here about individual responsibility and taking a look at what is occurring when I go within. And so Joel gives two descriptions that are actually, say, not so easy to read right away, because it's like, well, don't confuse it with anything. So that's why I want to take a look at that too. So one of the expressions goes like this: the significance of the Christ is lost if I do not understand that the healing Christ was never crucified and was never buried in a tomb, right? So it's like your Christ awareness, the Christ within you as your true identity was never born, was never crucified, was never buried. No, it's always there. The healing Christ is the Prince of Peace within me, the Son of God, planted there from the beginning. It's literally, he was there from the beginning and will be there forever. It cannot be taken away, you cannot lose it. No, it is right, literally, it is in you. It is there. It's created in you as an extension of the Father. It's like the Trinity is inseparable, and the Christ, the Prince of Peace, is a whole part of that. Now here, Joel gives an instruction. Here is where I want to take a look at. Through my meditations, through an inner contemplation and communion with that spirit within, that's what we practice, right? That's what we're doing. It's like meditation, contemplation, and opening up for a communion with the spirit within. I raise up this Son in me, and that communion brings forth in my universe all that the Son of God is. Now here's the word, I raise up this Son in me. And Joel talks here consciousness. He does not do anything else. So raising that up into your consciousness means there's sufficient space in your consciousness to let that occur, to let the Son of God be present in your awareness, in your consciousness. And that is because your other definitions are no longer, say, activated, you could say, for that moment that you experience it. So here's another one. If all I am is what I see in my mirror, what is the reason for my existence on earth? If I examine the lives of some human beings, Joel says, I must wonder why they even are tolerated in this world of mine. So now here's the turning point. Only when I begin to understand the nature of this that is inherent in me, and that this now awaits raising up in me for my redemption, for my functioning as children of God on earth, only then do I realize that I am sent to show forth all of God's glory. And this is the true Christmas, the true Christ Mass. So that is a difficult sentence. So I'll repeat once more here from only when I begin to understand the nature of this, how it actually works. Like what is it that I'm perceiving? What is it that I'm seeing in the mirror? Is that all of it? It's like why would that be a reason for me to be there if that is all there is? And temporary body looking into the mirror, seeing itself as a separate entity, and that's it. So only when I begin to understand the nature of this that is inherent in me, and that this now awaits raising up in me for my redemption, for my functioning as children of God on earth, only then do I realize that I'm sent to show forth all of God's glory. This is the true Christmas. See, that's not an easy sentence to grasp, you could say, because in fact he tells everything is in 2 sentences said. It's like how does this work? I'm looking in the mirror darkly, as Paul says, I think, or John or Paul. Well, you might know this. It's like looking through the mirror darkly. You see separate entities. You see somebody in front of you moves. While you move your head, it moves too, and you see that it has a distance to you, and it needs to be somewhere in a moment. Yeah, so it's in time. It's related in time. Well, if you see the nature of that, then you see also that it doesn't make sense, that would be, say, the eternal Son of God that you truly are. Like, it doesn't make sense. This thing that you see, this object, this idea about yourself that you see is not the Christ. It might look very good and beautiful, but it's not the Christ. So the practice then, it's like through meditation, through contemplation, through an inner awareness, like opening up to the truth about ourselves, releasing everything that is not part of that, releasing all my ideas about myself, coming with like open hands in my meditation, suddenly something shifts and I'm able to receive a glimpse of light, a moment of communication, a moment of recognition, or just a release of like, oh my God, what was that? Ah, that feels so good. You don't even know what happens. That's perfectly all right. But then you feel that something is being lifted in you. Your consciousness is being lifted, is raised, is becoming lighter, you could say. Now, this is exactly what Joel is pointing at. But it doesn't hurt to take a look at the way that he expresses it so that we know that we're talking about the same thing here. That's really important. Now, all this practice that we do, is in fact this. It's like we are not raising anything into our consciousness, you could say. We're not raising anything. No, we just say step aside, you could say. We leave every definition of ourselves that has nothing to do with the truth of us. Any definition, even the definitions of your spiritual being, the definitions of how you think that God is, or how you think that your neighbor is. That came back in the meditations. Like, no, don't worry about this neighbor. Don't worry about any description of your neighbor. No, this is your individual responsibility. You have these ideas, not anyone else. There's only really you. It's like you have to accept this for yourself. Accept that you have nothing to say about this, in the sense of your definitions are not making this true. So that's what is true already is. That's why we have this like third part of the man was not born to cry, the I that I am. I already am that. I am that. It's unchangeable. It's the Prince of Peace. That is within me. That is born within me. But not really born. It's like it was already there. It was there from the beginning and from the end at the same time. It had nothing to do with the beginning of an end. It was just there, so to speak. It is just there. Now, to turn this around, you could say, is like the Prince of Peace is the representation of your true self, which is the only thing that truly is there. So that's why stillness works so well. If you become still and have a listening attitude, something can change. You step aside, you could say, like with all your ideas about yourself and all your considerations and all your wonderful, beautiful ideas, you step aside and give all space to the Prince of Peace in you. Now he can manifest himself, like he's right there. It didn't go anywhere. All this stuff that you say use to, in fact, ignore it, needs to just get out of the way for a second. That is all. So the human being as you have known yourself to be is what the denial of this is. That's what Joel says too. It's like this is the denial of what you truly are. That's why it doesn't make any sense what you see in the mirror. It will not be proved to anything. And we know this. So you practice this, and that is your work, you could say. It's like it's your work. It's a lot of work it's a lot of work to stand still and not, say, be tempted to fall into the habit of trying to give another definition to yourself, or try to save yourself, or try to fix yourself, or try to survive, or, all of this. Like all your wisdom. This is what I say I did too. Like all his so-called wisdom and prophecy. How did it come to him? By him getting out of the way. Everything was already given. Everything is already happening. Like it is all given to you. If you are open to receive it, it is right there. You don't miss out on anything. And it's fulfilling you. The Prince of Peace, the Prince of Joy, the Prince of Completedness, the Prince of Spiritual Perfection. Who is not looking for that? Like in our training, we love to come to an idea about ourselves that, say, at least is pretty close to the point of spiritual perfection. We strive for it in a certain sense, like we strive for it. And that's not necessary at all. You will not come to that in your striving to be spiritually perfect, because you just need to get out of the way. That is all. Your spiritual perfection is guaranteed. It is right there. The Prince of Peace is waiting for you to step back so it can manifest itself in you. That is the offering that Joel gives. In his very own way, he expresses this. He has the experience of that. He knows what he's talking about. And that's so great. So it's lovely. Yeah, I can't wait to listen to it too. So we listen to the second part of the tape of Joel, and it's the Christmas talk, 1961. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much. And we're going to listen to Joel. Okay, here we go.
We, in our daily meditations, make contact with it, and then it is as if it were given release. It flew out from us like the dove of peace and began to spread its seeds all over this universe. To look for peace in another is to not only evade the issue and avoid it, it is really to prevent our own demonstration of peace. To look for justice in another, to look for mercy in another, to look for gratitude in another. This is all a mistake. We must find the kingdom of God that is within us, and this is our individual responsibility. This is why the Master spoke to the people on the shores of Galilee, in the mountains, by the lakes, in the desert, in the wilderness, wherever two or more could be gathered together. He spoke to them, and he always used the word you or ye. You must forgive 70 times 7. You must pray for your enemy. You must seek first the kingdom of God that is within you. Always he was speaking to his hearers. He did not say this to Pilate, Herod. He did not say this to Caesar. He did not look to them for peace. He looked to you, knowing that if you found peace within yourself, that peace would envelop all mankind. So it is, you will discover, when you begin to take the responsibility for maintaining your own families in health and harmony, you will discover that the inner peace and harmony that you find in your moments of meditation becomes the health of your children, of the members of your family. It isn't that you demand any health of them or any good conduct of them. It is that you find it within yourself, and then it becomes a law unto them. And later, as you accept the responsibility when your neighbor asks for help, or your friends and other relatives, you will find again, you do not say to them, be healthy. You do not say to them, be wealthy, or be just, or be merciful. You retire to that secret place within yourself, and there commune with this Son of God within you, until this feeling of peace envelops you or descends upon you. And when you find your peace, you will find that those who have turned to you for help have received it. You have not transferred it to them by any mental abracadabra. You have not transferred it to them by suggestion or hypnotism. You have retired to the kingdom of God within yourself, and there found peace, found oneness or at-one-ment or spiritual communion with the Christ. And the moment that you have found this, the influence escapes from you and becomes a law of life and of love to those who have turned to you for help. It is one of the very earliest revelations given to me that it was not necessary for me to pray for anyone or to give treatments to anyone. It was necessary only for me to find my own inner peace, and then the peace that I found, the awareness of harmony, wholeness, completeness that I found immediately became their experience, because they had attuned themselves to my consciousness in the same way that the Master asks, do you believe that I can do this? Or those along the way, Master, Master, help me. Master, Master, heal me. And by their very reaching out to his consciousness, the woman that pressed through the throng and touched the hem of his robe came immediately into his consciousness, and then the peace that enveloped him descended upon her and upon all those who turned to him for help. But again, the significance of the Christ would be lost if you did not understand that that same healing Christ has never been crucified, has never been buried in a tomb. The healing Christ is the same Christ which is the Prince of Peace, which is within you, the Son of God planted within you from the beginning. We raise up the Son of God in us through our meditations, through an inner contemplation and communion with that Spirit that is within us. It is a miracle of grace that one with God is a majority. It is a miracle of grace that only two or more gather together, find the entire kingdom of God in the midst of them. It is a miracle of grace that communing with the Son of God within us brings forth all that the Son of God is to our universe. That is why this, of course, must never be permitted to be known in a communist country, because this bears witness to the depth, the sanctity and sacredness of an individual life. And under its system, if 100 million died, they wouldn't mind it. It is just a trifle, a drop in the bucket to accomplish their ends. Whereas with us, every single life is a miracle of God's grace. Every individual is an offspring of the Most High. The life of every individual is so sacred to us that we do not think it unusual. Well, if a doctor sat up all day and night to save one patient, we would hardly give him a medal for it. We expect it of him. We expect our entire medical world to devote itself to the saving of one individual life. Can you imagine what that type of life, of religious teaching, means as against the idea that man is dust and dirt and merely a number to be bandied about by leaders? It is for this reason that until the Western world really begins to appreciate the dignity of the individual man, it will not have the full moral force that will eventually bring peace on earth. Peace will not be established by military means. Peace will be established by the moral capacity of those nations who have grasped the significance of the value of an individual and the reason for that value. Surely, as a human being, as a mortal, an individual is not valuable. I of my own self can do nothing and am less than nothing. But it is because of the incarnation of the Christ that every individual is as important to God as the greatest of the prophets and saints and saviors, because every individual potentially is Christ, the Prince of Peace, the Son of God, the I that has come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. This I know too, that it is only necessary for 10 righteous men, it is only necessary for a few to realize the dignity the sacredness of individual man to be such a moral force as will change the nature of a whole city's or states' or nations' elections and eventually govern international affairs. But there must be this lifting up of the Christian ideal of the nature of individual being and the reason for it. You cannot dignify yourself unless you know that it is because you are the offspring of God and that the Son of God is within you, that your life is really not yours, but God's life individually being expressed through you, as you. The mind of God individually manifested as your mind. You see, the moment that you look upon yourself as what you see in the mirror, you can find no reason for your existence on earth. If you examine the lives of most humans, you must wonder why they're even tolerated on the face of the globe. It is only when you begin to understand the nature of that which is inherent in us and that this now awaits our raising up in us for our redemption, for our salvation, for our functioning as children of God on earth. This is Christmas. This is the Christ Mass. Only that we realize that we are sent forth to show forth all of God's glory. I am come to do the will of my Father. So says the Master. This, because of the universal nature of God, is your function and mine, to do the will of the Master, that God's will may be done through us. Not your will and not mine. Our lives must be dedicated to that principle that I am on earth, that the will of God may be done through me. You see, there was no salvation, no saving for the Hebrew people until a Moses appeared after the revelation of the Son of God in him. I am that I am. There was no saving for the Hebrew people of the Master's day until the Christ was shown forth as the consciousness of Jesus. There was no Christ message carried to Europe until there was a Paul showing forth, manifesting the Christ that was within him. I can do all things through Christ that dwelleth in me. I live, yet not I, Christ dwelleth in me. And so the lesson that we gather, and I could go back with you for a couple of thousand years BC and show you the 7 individuals of whom it is said that they were immaculately conceived, all of whom became great leaders of their people from a religious standpoint, and show you that the revelation is in agreement that God is manifest only as man. God appears on earth as man. And wherever there is an individual capable of putting himself or herself aside and realizing, I am here that God's will may be done through me. I am here that ye might have life and that ye might have it more abundantly. I am here so as to be an outlet for this imprisoned splendor. I am here that I may be used, that this Christ within may function for the benefit of all of those who are still in darkness. Do you not see then? Napoleon it was who said that every soldier has a marshal's baton in his knapsack. And this was merely saying what the Christian teaching is saying, that every man has within himself the full authority of a master. Everyone has within himself the full dignity of a master. Everyone has within himself the full authority of a master by the grace of God's presence in him. You see then, the world has been fortunate in having Moses and Elijah and Elisha and Isaiah and Jesus and John and Paul and Buddha and Shankara, Nanak. The world has been fortunate in having these who caught the vision of the indwelling Spirit of God and who realized their divine nature. But all of these men taught the same thing. I am only a way shower. I am only a teacher. And if I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. If you do not begin to perceive that that which has been revealed by the spiritual masters of the world is a universal principle, how then can this Christ become a universal revelation and demonstration? How can the kingdom of God come on earth if it doesn't come as individual man raised up to his Christhood? Do you expect for a moment that the people of this world of themselves are suddenly going to become good people instead of bad people? Or wise people instead of ignorant people? Do you think for a moment that there is anything that is going to change the human race from being what it always has been, a state of slavery, in a state of bondage, a state of mass ignorance? Do you think that the world will ever change from that except through the realization of the nature of Christmas, of the nature of the fact that the seed of God is planted in human consciousness, and that seed is planted in individual you and me, and we must bring forth our spiritual identity? There is no other way in which it can be done. The education of the schools, of course, is good and necessary, but you can't educate morality into anyone, and you cannot educate integrity into anyone. As a matter of fact, I suppose that our educated thieves are our most vicious ones, and our educated immoralists are our most vicious ones. Education does not create morality. Only the realization of the spiritual nature of our being can do that. Only the lifting up of the Christ in us can make us a world of people inspired with high spiritual and moral sense. No, you do not educate morals into anyone. You do not educate a spiritual sense into them. You bring it forth from within them by releasing it from within yourself. In no other way can the peace be established on earth except in the way that we could demonstrate it in this room. If I can find the peace of God in me, I will attract to me a little group, and they will find the peace of God established within them. And then they, finding the peace of God established within them, will draw it forth from others. And in no other way will this be done. Telling people they should be good, or that there should be peace on earth, or that there should be integrity in dealings, this doesn't accomplish it. Nothing accomplishes it, not even preaching sermons. If all the sermons that have been printed were actually in demonstration today, we would already have the kingdom of God on earth. But there is a secret, and the secret is that peace is locked up in you. And you must release the Prince of Peace from within you, and then let it do its work in the consciousness of all those who at this moment may be ready and receptive for the experience. Don't moralize to the world. Don't ask the world to be better than it is. Let us individually release the Prince of Peace within ourselves. Let us commune with the Spirit that is within us, and then, as it escapes, let it go before us to do its work. We will not be called upon to go out into the world. We will only be called upon to release the Spirit of Christ into the world, which is at the moment locked up within us. There is no spiritual value in all of the words that we utter. There is no spiritual or moral value in all of the lessons we teach or preach. The grace of God does not reach human consciousness by moralizing. We must retire to our homes, to our temples, to our hills and valleys, and we must find our peace within ourselves. We must become a center through which the grace of God can escape and be an invisible presence that goes before us to make the crooked places straight, to prepare mansions. Our greatest value to the world is in the periods of silence, secrecy, sacredness. Ah, yes. every time that we look or see an individual and realize within ourselves that this grace of God is within them, we have become a light unto the world without voicing it, without speaking it, without uttering it, without writing it. Merely by looking on an individual and realizing there too is the grace of God, there too is the Son of God. This is releasing the imprisoned splendor, this recognition of the indwelling Christ in friend and foe. Pray for your enemies. Pray for those that despitefully use you. Pray for your enemies. By realizing there too goes the Son of God, not that human walking the earth, the seed planted in the midst of them, but your recognition of that seed is the very nurture that it needs to bring it forth. This seed that is within us, that lies buried, will remain a seed forever until it receives its nurture, its nourishment. And that spiritual nourishment is recognition. The moment that I can look upon you and realize within you is the Son of God, the I that I am. Within you is the divine presence and the divine power. Right there is the grace of God. I am feeding. I am a light and rain too. Sunshine and rain to that seed. And then that seed in you begins to sprout and your nature changes without your knowing why. All of a sudden there develops in you a search for God, a seeking for reality, until you find the message or the messenger that reveals to you, seek no further. It is within you. That which you are seeking is within you. That which you are seeking is the divine reality of you. The Son of God is in you. The Holy Grail is within your own consciousness. All of the sacredness of the Son of God is established within you. The eternality, the immortality, the infinite nature of God's being is your being, because you and your Father are one, and all that the Father hath is established in you. His wisdom, His mind, His glory, His grace, His presence, His substance, His being, the very breath of His life is the breath of your life, for I and my Father are one. And in that oneness I find my allness. In that oneness I find my oneness with all of you. Only in my oneness with God am I at one with the Son of God in you. Only in your oneness with God are you at one with every spiritual light who has ever trod the globe, past, present, and future. Christmas, of course, then, reveals that God has planted His Son in you. Thank you. Thank you. Until next Sunday morning.
All right. Yes. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Man Was Not Born to Cry series related to the book of Joel. And you see, like, wow, there's everything is in there too. So today there's even the receiving the Christ, recognizing the Christ in yourself. So thank you so much for joining with us. And if you feel like sharing something, please do so. Thank you so much. the next week will be the Transcendental Consciousness tape group. We're going to listen to tapes of Joel and meditate and have a little introduction to the tape that we're listening to. So we continue, in fact, but then with the Transcendental Consciousness tapes of Joel. And come and join. Wonderful.